This week in IT, OpenAI just dropped a toolkit for building AI agents, AgentKit, and it promises to revolutionize the use of AI agents in the workplace. Also this week, Microsoft quietly announced that by default it would start moving your old Exchange Online emails to the archive, but then changed its mind. Plus, a crash in Kubernetes brought down Azure Front Door and Microsoft Entra, leaving admins scrambling. So stay tuned for all the latest. Welcome to This Week in IT, the show where I talk about everything connected to Microsoft 365, Azure, and Windows. Today's episode is sponsored by our friends at Caresoft. On Monday, OpenAI had its third annual Dev Day conference, and it's really hit the headlines, especially because of a new toolkit that they've just released called AgentKit. Now, this is designed to make it easier for developers to build agents for the enterprise without having to cobble together various different connectors and things in order to make all of these things work together. Now, AgentKit, it consists essentially of four main components. So the first one is a visual canvas that will allow developers to build the flows for their agents and have some kind of visual representation of the process the flows go through. And this will allow them to design and visualize multi-agent workflows. There's going to be a centralized connector registry for managing how tools, data sources, and systems are wired into the agents, and ChatKit, which is a way to allow developers to more easily implement natural language processing into websites and applications. And finally, something called evals, which is going to allow developers to evaluate the performance and effectiveness of the agents that they develop. And on top of that, OpenAI are promising durable workflow. So what they mean by that is integration with workflow management engines like Temporal to make sure that any agent workflows that you put in place survive any interruptions or retries, so making the whole thing a lot more robust. So you might be thinking, what's the big deal about all of this? We already have things like Copilot Studio, which enables people to build these workflows and agents, if you like. So the big difference here is that the AgentKit released this week, it's in a beta at the moment, but it's designed for developers. It's designed to be highly flexible and to let developers work with whatever connectors and technologies and things that they want to do. Now, Copilot Studio is really designed for business users, not so much for developers. It's designed to let them create agent workflows within the bounds of Microsoft 365. So it's more controlled and it automatically applies things like security and governance policies to make sure that your data stays safe. AgentKit is much more flexible than Copilot Studio, so it's model agnostic. You can integrate it with whatever LLM model you like, and you can't do that with Copilot Studio at the time of this video. And in short, OpenAI are essentially taking what was something that could only really be used as an experiment or testing with the AI agents that you were able to build to something that's more production ready. This is going to be a whole workflow for developers that will allow the business to be confident that in what they're developing is, robust and that it's actually going to work and it's worthy, if you like, of being part of their IT infrastructure. Now, I don't have any experience building custom GPTs or working with any of the technology on the OpenAI side in terms of agents, but I do have some experience creating an agent in Copilot Studio. And to be honest, while it's not meant specifically for developers, it's intended really that business users are also able to create their own agents without necessarily involving IT. I think the reality of it at this stage is, while in principle you don't need to be a programmer to use Copilot Studio, some understanding of programming is definitely going to help you, because unless you're doing something extremely simple, then the chances are your agent isn't going to work without you doing some fiddling in the actual code itself to get it started and to get it working properly. Now, I don't want to diss Copilot Studio. No, it's a great step in the right direction, but I don't think it's quite a plug and play system that your average employee who doesn't have any programming knowledge can just take at the moment and, go with the flow, if you like. Now, some analysts are saying that this announcement of AgentKit this week is something like OpenAI's iPhone moment. This is the moment that's really going to change the ability for organizations to integrate these AI agents reliably and with confidence into their business processes. Of course, we'll have to see, does that really happen? But I think this is an exciting step forwards, and I think AI agents are going to become more common in the workplace and something we're all going to have to learn to work with. Let me know in the comments what you think about these latest tools from OpenAI. Do you have any experience of building agents with the SDK and whatever methods were available before this announcement? Was it easy? Was it difficult? Or any experience with Copilot Studio? I'd love to know what you think below. Before I go on to the next story, I've got a quick favor to ask you. About 34% of the people who watched last week's video weren't subscribed to the channel. So if you'd like to see these weekly news updates from Petri.com, please subscribe and don't forget to hit the bell notification to make sure that you don't miss out on the latest uploads. Now, this story won't come as a surprise to most of you, I suppose, because Microsoft are quite used to doing U-turns and things that they announced. So this week, Microsoft announced, it might have been the end of last week, but in the last few days, they announced that they were going to automatically turn on archiving for old emails once your email box in Exchange Online gets to 90% full. Now, this is a feature that, as far as I understood, already existed in Exchange, but wasn't turned on by default. So what they're just announcing here is, we're going to turn this on by default, and we're giving you literally 2 days notice before this happens. Now, while this may seem all very well and good, just giving organizations a couple of days' notice obviously was a bit of a problem for many businesses. Now, why has Microsoft decided they need this turned on by default? Well, again, this goes back to AI as well. They're saying that there's now so much AI-generated information in people's mailboxes, things like summaries of meetings and emails and things that are created by AI or for whatever reason, that it's becoming more and more of a problem with people running out of space in their inboxes. But businesses pushed back this week, and yesterday Microsoft announced that they changed their minds and that they would be reviewing the timeline for making this a default option in Exchange Online. So you can take a sigh of relief. Hopefully this is not going to affect your organization right now, and Microsoft will put in a proper timeline for getting this enabled for everyone. Yesterday, some users were not able to access various different Microsoft cloud services because it transpired that there was a big crash in Kubernetes. We don't know what caused it, but it seems that about 30% of Azure services became unavailable because the crash in Kubernetes caused a problem with Azure Front Door, which is kind of the gateway to a secure gateway to Microsoft's cloud services, and Entra, which is the thing that handles all of the authentication and policies surrounding that. So Microsoft has said that this isn't due to some kind of update that they applied to Kubernetes or to these particular servers, but they're not saying exactly what caused the problem. So yesterday, engineers rebooted the Kubernetes servers and they gradually started to come back online and re-enable those critical services that give you access to the various different Azure solutions. Now, this mainly affected users in Europe, the Middle East, and Africa, but it's once again raising questions about the resiliency of cloud services. Of course, it isn't only Microsoft Azure, other cloud services are not immune to these kinds of problems, but we have all been in this situation. But we have to remember that even if you bring everything in-house and run your own private cloud, these things happen too. But at least if this is Microsoft services, it's their problem to sort out and not yours, I suppose. But you have to question, of course, the reliability of these services and how you plan out your Azure network to make sure that there's some resiliency built into whatever cloud deployments you're using. I'm going to leave you with another video on the screen now about the new knowledge agent in SharePoint Online and a Vibe working that's now available across the Microsoft 365 Office applications. But that's it from me for this week, and I'll see you next time.